This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our main website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Robert Salas. We're going to be talking to Robert about his new book, Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. In 1969, the United States Air Force issued a statement that read, "No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force was ever an indication of threat to our national security." Now, this statement is patently false. It has been proven untrue by the testimony of many military officers and airmen, and documentation of incidents involving UFOs and nuclear weapons, testimonies of which the U.S. Air Force are fully aware. Unidentified details, many of these testimonies, some for the very first time. As partial justification for its position, the Air Force cites a University of Colorado study that was contracted and paid for by federal funds. Unidentified reveals how this study was actually just another part of the plan to cover up the reality of the UFO phenomenon. For the very first time, Unidentified publishes evidence that the investigators for the Colorado study knew about the UFO-related missile shutdown incidents, but did not investigate them or include them in their final report. This is where my guest this hour comes in, Robert Salas. Robert Salas is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, class of 1964. He served 7 years on active duty before separating from the Air Force in 1971. While on active duty, he worked as a weapons controller, flew target drones, commanded intercontinental ballistic missiles as launch officer, and worked as an Air Force missile propulsion engineer on the Titan III program. From 1971 to 1973, he worked as a safety and reliability engineer for Martin-Marietta Aerospace and Rockwell International on the shuttle program design proposals. In 1974, until his retirement in 1995, he worked for the Federal Aviation Administration as an aircraft structure certification industry. Now, since 1998, he has worked as a mathematics teacher. He currently teaches and tutors mathematics. In 2005, he published the book Fated Giant with co-author James Klotz, which details his UFO incident while stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana in 1967. On September 27, 2010, he co-sponsored a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where he and 6 other ex-military witnesses testified to the reality of the UFO incidents at nuclear weapon bases. Now, in May 2013, he participated in the Citizens Hearing on Disclosure, once again at the National Press Club in Washington. Mr. Salas has been publicly speaking about his incident at UFO conferences, radio, and television shows since 1996. The website, www.spiralgalaxy.org. And now joining me is Robert L. Salas. And Robert, welcome to the X-Zone.
Great to be with you, Rob.
Robert,
thanks for that comprehensive introduction.
Well, I just wanted to know the people. I just want to let the listeners know that you are a man who is well qualified, well certified. You are a witness above and beyond reproach. And you, to this very day, are saying, hey, the governments of the world have conspired to conceal the UFO phenomenon. Why?
Good question. Why? Based on my experience with witnesses and all the experiences I've had in testifying and talking to people, I really think this is now about culture of greed and power. There is I'm convinced, a secret group worldwide, probably staffed by people who have worked in intelligence agencies, well versed in how to hide secrets and in such an organization. And I think it's to the point now where they have worked with recovered craft and probably actual entities and know a lot. They know a lot about this phenomenon, which they're not sharing with the public. And probably some of this stuff is very valuable, both commercially and as, let's say, bargaining chips in international politics.
Gotcha. Robert, stand by. We've got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Exo Nation, my very special guest this hour is Robert Salas. He is the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. His website is www.spiralgalaxy.org. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, continues on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Welcome back, Exo Nation. My guest this hour is Robert Salas. He's the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomena. It's published by New Page Press, and Robert's website is www.spiralgalaxy.org. Robert, can you tell us about your March 24th, 1967 UFO encounter while you were in the Air Force?
Sure. Very briefly, I was on duty at what we call Oscar Flight. It's a hardened site in control of 10 nuclear missiles. These were Minuteman I missiles at the time. On March 24th, 1967, I was down in the capsule, which is 60 feet underground. We had 6 guards or so upstairs and a secure facility. On this night or early morning, I don't remember which, we got 2 calls. First call from the topside guard said they'd seen strange lights in the sky and making strange maneuvers. They weren't aircraft, according to them. They were silent, lighted objects making 90-degree turns, etc., high speeds. I had kind of dismissed this, and then about 5 minutes later, he called back, and this time he was screaming into the phone, very frightened, and saying they were looking out at a glowing red object hovering above the front gate. It was just a red pulsating light, some 40 or 50 feet in diameter, oval-shaped, just sitting there above the front gate. They had all the weapons drawn, scared to death, and wanted me to tell them what to do next. I was pretty shocked. Thought we could have been under some sort of an attack. I didn't know what to think, really, but I just told them not to let anything inside the front gate use whatever force necessary. And he hung up the phone. What to tell my commander about the phone calls, and as I was starting to tell him, our missiles started going into what's called a no-go condition. They were disabled. We got red lights on the board. We got klaxons and horns going off, and all 10 of those missiles became disabled while this object was still up there. Of course, we were locked in. I couldn't go up there and look at the object. And we went through our procedures, checked. We had a way of checking the fault, and it was guidance and control system failure for each of the 10 missiles.
Wow.
We had an inertial guidance system, meaning we had a system where the guidance package had to be carefully oriented and targeted, and it was more of a initial mechanical system until it got airborne. And then, of course, the computers took over to calculate its trajectory on target. But at any rate, this was just a failure of the guidance system. We had the same announcement on each of the missiles. There was no power loss, but what this object would have had to do was send a specific signal through 60 feet of earth and concrete and penetrate the cabling system, which was triply shielded from EMI, electromagnetic interference, and send a signal to each of the missiles separately, which were located about a mile or two from my facility and then another mile from each other. So this was quite a thing. I had never experienced anything like this. There was no real explanation that the Air Force could come up with. But and we were notified, after we notified the command post, they told us that the same thing had happened at another site. And that turned out to be the Echo Flight incident, which happened about a week earlier. Similar incident, UFOs overhead, and all 10 missiles shut down while the UFOs were overhead. So within the span of 8 days, we lost 20 missiles to UFOs.
Could those missiles have been reprogrammed to go back into active duty, sir?
Oh, absolutely. The missiles were not damaged. The systems were not damaged. We had maintenance crews get out there right away, and most of these missiles were brought back up online within 24 hours.
Wow.
So it was just a matter of recalibrating the guidance system.
Was there any notification from NORAD or any other radar facility that actually could collaborate the sightings that your people on the surface were having?
Well, NORAD had any radar data. I didn't hear about it, but what we did find out from our investigation was that on the same day, March 24th, same evening actually, this was called the Belt sighting, and this is well documented in Blue Book, and of course I've got these documents in my books.
Right.
The UFO was sighted by a truck driver. It was confirmed by Montana Highway Patrol. The UFO landed. And this UFO, or other UFOs like it, were also seen on the base, on Malmstrom Air Force Base, flying over the base flight line, and also tracked on radar. So there is at least a record of that, at least from public reporting. And this comes from public reports from the newspaper. We didn't get any documents about that particularly, but there were airmen that saw the UFO on the same day as my incident.
After having investigated the UFO phenomenon, as you have, Robert, do you believe that whoever is entering our airspace, entering the atmosphere of this planet, do they, in your opinion, pose a threat to national security or to the welfare of the world?
Okay, that is another very good question. Overall, I'd say in this case specifically, and in other cases I've documented where UFOs were seen over nuclear facilities, I think it was basically simply to send a message to us to get rid of our nuclear weapons. In the cases that I discuss in my book, there was no specific damage done to the missiles themselves. Again, just like in my case, basically they're shining a beam of light at times. They're shining a beam of light at weapon storage areas. And again, they want to make sure that people on the ground see this and note it, the fact that these objects are penetrating these highly secure facilities, shining a beam of light on weapons, nuclear weapons, and to me, that says that they're just sending a message, and the message is, get rid of your nuclear weapons.
Yeah. So,
in that sense, we could say that they've got our best interest at heart. But again, I don't want to, claim to know for certain what they're up to, because it's still a mystery.
It's a mystery that has been going on since 1947. Do you believe, sir? I'm just asking this of Robert Salas, citizen. Do you believe that the governments of the world really have information and that they are involved in a worldwide conspiracy to suppress the information about UFOs? And if yes, why?
Well, I just amend your statement just a little bit. I'm not sure it's governments per se.
Okay.
For example, I don't think our president knows about the UFO secrets. I do think that within agencies in governments throughout the world, there certainly are people in the know, because these incidents have happened all over the world. Yeah. And there are people in the know that are probably working together in the form of a secret organization, which I've termed the UFO cabal, and they're holding these secrets back. Again, I think initially it was probably because they were concerned about how the public would react, how our society would be harmed by this knowledge, and things like that. But I think now it's to the point, because this phenomenon has been in the public view for so long. I think most people, a lot of polls show that most people believe we have indeed been visited by extraterrestrial craft, and so there's no real reason not to disclose to the public other than the power that comes from holding these secrets. And again, like I said, power is, well, if you had the knowledge, for example, of how to travel at extremely high speeds and make high G turns that humans cannot make today, then this is very powerful information.
But if this information was being held by a government power of the world, sir, would we still be using solid rocket fuel to get into orbit? Would we still be taking all this time to go from Earth to Mars? Would we still be looking for the answers when it comes to propulsion that hundreds of thousands of people around this world this very day are working on? This is where I have a problem with the entire cover-up conspiracy theory.
Okay, that's fair enough. Right now, we've got a system in place with regard to power, where it's petrol-based power, right? Energy, fuel from petroleum. If, let's say, we introduced a free source of energy, then that would damage the ability of people that control the petro business to lose income.
So as in any other case, follow the money.
Right.
All right, Mr. Salas, we've got to take a commercial break here with the news at the bottom of the hour. Thank you so much for joining us. It's indeed a pleasure having you on the show. X-Zone Nation, Robert Salas is our special guest this hour. He's the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon. It's published by New Page Press, and Robert's website is www.spiralgalaxy.org. Robert Salas and I will return on the other side of this news break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com. Join Doug Elwell in the search for the hidden secrets of the creation, nativity, and second coming in his new book, Planet X, The Sign of the Son of Man and the End of the Age. Doug's latest book on Planet X explores the astounding new theory that the Star of Bethlehem and the mysterious sign that Jesus said that would foretell his second coming are in fact one and the same object, the mysterious Planet X, that even now may be winging its way back to a fateful rendezvous with Earth. Don't let the end times creep up on you like a thief in the night. Let Planet X, the sign of the Son of Man, and the end of the age help you physically, mentally, and spiritually prepare for the dark times ahead and the great destructions that are sure to accompany Planet X as it once again passes near Earth in its fateful orbit around the Sun. You can get your copy of Planet X, the Sign of the Son of Man and the End of the Age on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, SurvivalMall.com, or through your local bookstore. Or visit www.planet-x.info for more information on how to prepare for the end of the age. In his new book, Wandering About, author David Strumfeld talks about the universe, existence, civilization, and the nature of mankind. Wandering About is a comprehensive guide that discusses man's everlasting struggle to learn what his place in the universe is and what the true purpose of his existence is all about. By dealing with many forms of science and humanity, Wandering About also serves as an intellectual autobiography, an expedition through author David Strumfeld's mind and his life as a human being. Through the reader's views, readers will learn many relevant things such as the development of civilization through the ages, how science helped mankind to make many crucial discoveries about the universe, why people's curiosity and imagination never get satisfied, and much more. Wandering About promises to push the reader's reasons and thinking to the very edge. To order Wandering About by David Strumfels, go to www.wanderingabout.net. That's www.wanderingabout.net. Manifestation is driven by imagination, intent, and passion. In our culture, all three have been distorted and disabled by modern media and exploitation. Re-engage your imagination and your passion by entering into the world of paranormal romance. Kahir O'Donnell takes her readers on an exciting journey into the endless possibilities of loving, passionate, and mutually respectful male-female relationship. Her latest book, The Long Dark Night, features special ops adventure, a daring rescue, a psychic woman from the stars, and a special agent that will die to protect her. The Long Dark Night by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at kahiraodonnell.com or amazon.com. Fartlets, fartlings, pongies, and honkers. They have so many names, makes you go bonkers. Rear tempest, butt bubbles, bottom burps, all aside. Why does it smell like a little rat died? Hail the fart, whenever, wherever, whoever. Its existence actually enriches our lives because it gives us those unforgettable moments that we can all recall again and again that are always good for yet another laugh. A new expose on farting. Get your copy of The Endearing Fart by Eileen Dover at www.theendearingfart.com. Manifestation is driven by imagination, intent, and passion. In our culture, all three have been distorted and disabled by modern media and exploitation. Re-engage your imagination and your passion by entering into the world of paranormal romance. Kahir O'Donnell takes her readers on an exciting journey into the endless possibilities of loving, passionate, and mutually respectful male-female relationship. Her latest book, The Long Dark Night, features special ops adventure, a daring rescue, a psychic woman from the stars, and a special agent that will die to protect her. The Long Dark Night by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at kahiraodonnell.com or amazon.com.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyards in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Robert Salas is our special guest. He is the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, How the World's Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. His website is www.spiralgalaxy.org. Robert, before you had your incident, your UFO encounter on March 24th, 1967, what were your views on UFOs?
I didn't think about it much at all. Certainly, I'd read the local paper, the Great Falls Tribune, had from time to time people reporting lights in the sky, that sort of thing. But I was with most people that thought that there was nothing to this.
Really?
So no, I had no belief system over UFOs before my incident.
The missile silos where this happened, were they under video surveillance? And if so, did the video surveillance show any anomalies the night of March the 24th, 1967?
No, unfortunately, we did not have video cameras then. As far as I know, nobody took photographs of this incident.
I've often thought that the UFO phenomenon is what the Bible is based upon. The burning bush, the descent of gods from the heavens in mythology and folklore. And when it comes to the conspiracy aspect, I don't think that it's as much as the government or the shadow government or the puppet masters who are responsible for the cover-up. I believe that it is the Vatican, the head of the churches, because if it was in fact disclosed that we have been visited by extraterrestrials all these years, that would mean that at that very moment, religion as we know it would cease to exist.
Well, the church, the Catholic Church specifically, I think, has made a statement that if when extraterrestrial life is discovered, that they would welcome them into the fold of the Catholic Church. So they may be preparing the public for disclosure in the future, but you're right in the sense that it would be a shock to a lot of people because it would change a lot of ideas as to how what our origins may have been. Some people think that ET may have even brought life originally to Earth. It would definitely be a shock to our system, no doubt.
Just imagine that. They wouldn't have religion as an excuse to cause war.
Yes.
Isn't that? There's another question I'd like to ask you. If we are being visited and by extraterrestrials, why haven't they stepped in during a nuclear crisis like at Fukushima? Why haven't they stepped in during the wars that we are continuously having on this planet? Any ideas on why?
Well, in fact, in my book, I do talk about incidents that have happened even before the first nuclear explosion. There have been UFO sightings over the Hanford facility, for example, which were documented. And during World War II, during the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and even during the Iraqi War, UFOs were sighted at that time. No, they have been observers rather than interfering in our wars. We could speculate about that. One speculation might be that they want to see if we humans can somehow get along better and not have wars. Because they were probably concerned, and this goes to your other question as to why they haven't, landed on the White House lawn.
Sure.
And they were probably very concerned about meeting or having some, close dealings with us because we are so warlike, and we would probably consider them enemies or at least very different from us. And you know how we've treated people that are different from us.
Yeah. Mind you, there's the other possibility that they may suffer the same effects as the North American First Nations did when the Westerners came over and brought plagues and disease with them, and maybe they're just concerned for their well-being. Right. I understand, Robert, that you think there was collusion between the Condon investigation on UFOs and the U.S. Air Force, and I was wondering if you could tell us why.
Yeah, I have evidence to that effect. As you stated in the start of the show, the Condon investigation knew about the Malmstrom Air Force Base incidents. And the reason I know this is because I've got documents from Dr. Roy Craig, who was the chief investigator for Condon. These documents are accessible to the public. They're at the, I think, Texas A&M Archive Library, where he visits a man by the name of Ray Fowler. You may know that name,
sure.
Ray Fowler.
Yeah.
Who was part of what's called the early warning group that was to notify the Condon investigation of UFO incidents that might interest them. He actually visited Ray Fowler after Ray contacted him because Fowler was the man who had worked for Sylvania. Sylvania had an electrical contract on the Minuteman system, and when the Malmstrom incidents, both the Echo and Oscar flights, went down, Fowler heard about it, and he actually heard from witnesses that saw the UFOs over the facilities. So he notified Dr. Roy Craig, the chief investigator for Condon. Mm-hmm. Craig actually visited with Fowler. Fowler gave him names, phone numbers, specifics about these incidents. Craig actually went to Malmstrom Air Force Base in October '67, and was told by the base ops officer that while there was an investigation going on, that UFOs had nothing to do with it. Craig got the message that he was not to poke his nose into this, and just turned around and went home. He did not interrogate any of the witnesses, even though he had names and phone numbers, etc. They never looked into the Malmstrom incident again. So to me, that was a clear sign of collusion. There's also documents that the Malmstrom Air Force Base UFO officer, again, this is Lieutenant Colonel Chase, lied to Project Blue Book in writing, and I have those documents. So to me, I've got good evidence where the Air Force not only lied to the Condon investigators, but also to their own offices within the Air Force.
What is your opinion of the Roswell crash of 1947, sir?
I think it's a very significant and true case. There have been, by my count, something like 300 witnesses that have come forward telling various aspects of the Roswell crash. And this is very well documented. I'll recommend a book by Donald Schmidt and I can't remember his co-author, but it's called Witness to Roswell, I think. It's called Witness to Roswell. But yes, I certainly believe this is a valid case.
You know, another U.S. Air Force officer, Charles Hull, has come out several years ago talking about the grays that he himself took to Las Vegas, that he was part of an area where these crafts would land and use Earth as a rest stop. And I was wondering if you had any opinion on what Charles Hull has been talking about, the fact that he interacted with these extraterrestrials, that they in fact do leave the restricted areas in Nevada and go into Las Vegas.
Well, I'm not going to comment specifically about that because I haven't really looked into Mr. Hull's evidence.
Okay.
What I will say, however, is when I started investigating these cases, I was very skeptical about some of the things I heard. But as the years have gone on and other things have come to light, I don't dismiss any of the statements by some of these witnesses out of hand. That doesn't mean I believe them. It means I simply don't dismiss them out of hand, and because this is so complex. The phenomenon is so complex that it depends on what kind of proof you'd need or what you might accept. So I'm not going to say one way or the other whether I believe Mr. Hall is correct.
With all the UFO sightings that are being reported these days, Peter Davenport at the Center for UFO does a great job in archiving these events worldwide. Nick Pope does a great job in the United Kingdom. And governments around the world are releasing UFO files. Why do you think the U.S. government has not made these files public yet?
Well, they've already gone on record as saying, what you read earlier, that there's nothing of significance to the UFO phenomenon. In fact, recently, President Obama had allowed people to ask him questions about anything. And as you probably know, Stephen Bassett wrote an inquiry to the Office of the President asking them to release information about the UFO phenomenon. We got a response back from the Office of Science and Technology, which is right under the office within the Office of the President, stating again the same thing. We don't think we have been visited by extraterrestrial beings. There's no evidence to that, and case closed. So that's the position of the United States government. Other governments now are more open to this question, specifically Argentina, Peru. As you know, Great Britain has released many of their files. However, recently they said, well, we withheld some that we should have released, and so they've got more files. So, but as far as the U.S. government, they are, since 1969, have been mum on the question and are not releasing any related files to UFOs.
Is it possible that the files that are being released by governments around the world are bogus, that they are just releasing these files in order to appease the public, that the real files are being withheld?
Oh, I absolutely concur with that. Yeah, I think most of the files that are being released by governments are, what I like to call lights in the sky stories. But the real good cases where there have been thorough investigations, witness testimonies, and evidence, hard evidence, those are most likely being held. And again, not necessarily by the governments, but by these agents within the governments that are part of this international cabal.
As a former member of the United States Air Force, the stories that go along with UFO sightings where people are visited by men in black, what's your opinion?
I've heard these stories, in fact, from other witnesses that now these so-called men in black, some of the witnesses claimed that these were not humans, that they were hybrids or extraterrestrials dressed in black. But certainly there are agents, again, working for the cabal, that one of their tasks is certainly to keep witnesses quiet or to collect information from witnesses. You mentioned the Roswell story. Many of those witnesses were threatened with their lives, the lives of their offspring, etc., at the time. So there are certainly people, you can call them men in black if you like, that are working for the cabal, whose job it is to discredit witnesses, to interrogate witnesses, and possibly even threaten them, or worse.
Why did the government stop Project Blue Book?
Well, the statement issued in 1969 by the Air Force says that there was no reason to have a public reporting of the UFO phenomenon because the Air Force was no longer going to investigate UFO cases. And that itself is a lie because the Air Force continued to investigate cases after 1969. We know that. There was a 1975 case at Malmstrom Air Force Base again. UFOs affected nuclear weapons, which was investigated by the Air Force, and there have been many others.
All right, please stand by. Robert, you and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation, Robert Salas is our very special guest this hour. www.spiralgalaxy.com. That's www.spiralgalaxy.com, and Robert is the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. And Robert and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerreonian intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earthwoman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at WhenTechFails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at MattStein.com. That's www.WhenTechFails.com and www.MattStein.com. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of ratings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splenda, and you're listening to my dad, Ron McConnell, on the X-Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell.
Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X-Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Robert Salas is my guest this hour. Exonation. He's the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. www.spiralgalaxy.org is the website. And Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure having you on. I read your book. I love it. And I've been telling my listening audience for 23 years that I want to believe. And thanks to your book, I'm one step closer.
That's good to hear, Rob. Thank you.
You, Steve Bassett, and so many others are getting the message out there. You're having these press conferences. You're going to the press club in Washington. Steve is doing a great job on his Project Disclosure. How frustrating is it for you when you get the world's media right there in front of you and they still don't believe?
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with that. I've spoken to a lot of media people that have, are on TV all the time, privately, that tell me that they do believe. But the issue goes higher. I'll give you an example. I was interviewed by, Channel 7 ABC commentator. Anyway, for his special on UFOs, and they took me to Dallas, flew me to Dallas. Was there for 3 days. They interviewed me. Said I had a great story. They were going to feature my story on their TV program. And a week before it was to air, I get a call saying that they couldn't put it on. And they didn't give me a reason. But again, I think the powers above them stifled the show, or at least my part of it.
Unreal. Simply unreal. By the way, the book that was co-written with Mr. Schmidt was by Thomas Carey.
Yes, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I should have remembered Thomas Carey.
What is your message to the worldwide listening audience of the X-Zone tonight, sir? What would you like them to? What would you like to leave them?
Really, what I'd like to tell your audience is to educate themselves on this phenomenon. There are plenty of good books and incidents that are well documented, well supported by witnesses, and I would like to at least have, especially the non-believers, look into this further and educate yourselves, because eventually this reality will be known to everyone. I truly believe that disclosure is coming. I can't tell you when, but I think it will come. And I think the public has an obligation to be ready for that.
Robert, once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure. Let our listeners know where they can get a copy of your book, Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, and give them your website one more time.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. I know it's there. And my website is spiralgalaxy.org. They would be interested in going to the section that has the witness testimony. Some of it's an audio tape. They can actually hear the witnesses For example, my commander and the deputy commander of Echo Flight, and also documents supporting my case at my website.
Robert, a pleasure having you on the show. I wish you continued success, and I can't wait until the next time you come back and join us here on the X Zone.
Thank you, Rob. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice evening. X Zone Nation, Robert Salas has been my guest this hour, the author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. www.spiralgalaxy.org. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.